Alright guys, so the college football rankings just came out tonight, and I'm going to bring you guys this video talking about if I think the rankings are right, who they got wrong, and what I feel about the entire thing, the narrative and what they're trying to say, what the rankings mean, and all that, and possible scenarios for certain teams to get into the playoff and other teams that shouldn't necessarily make the playoffs. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. Alright guys, so here's the committee's top 25. They have Georgia 1, Alabama 2, Oregon 3, Ohio State 4, and Cincinnati 5. Now, I'm going to go by this by fives, and we're going to talk about Georgia. Obviously, Georgia has the best defense. They have a decent offense as well. That's why they're number 1. They only let Missouri score 6 points in their game. And then we have Alabama at 2. They struggled mightily against LSU. That's why I actually have them at 4 in my rankings. But the committee has them at 2 because the Oregon, Ohio State, and Cincinnati also did not perform very well. So they did not overtake them. Oregon, they played Washington. They won that game 26-16. This game was very close the entire time. And to be honest, Washington blew so many chances to win that game. And then we have Ohio State. Ohio State, they barely survived a game against Nebraska. Now Nebraska, they have a good defense, and their offense is the second best in the Big Ten, which kind of doesn't make any sense looking at the record. But yeah, Ohio State's offense was non-existent in this game. Their defense played okay, I guess. 2 big plays. Without those 2 big plays, Nebraska only went ahead 3 points. So they have to fix that big play issue that they have. And then we have Cincinnati. They played Tulsa, and they won off a goal line stand against a team that isn't that good at all. I mean, Tulsa's a little bit better than some teams, but they're not on the level of Cincinnati, so that's why they also only moved up 1. And honestly, what I think the committee was doing with the top 5 teams, they just moved them up 1 because Michigan State lost, and that's all I see. All the teams played mediocre other than Georgia, so they just slid up 1. Now when we get to the 6 to 10, we have Michigan. They're actually ranked ahead of Michigan State, which did lose to Michigan State. But Michigan, that was Michigan's game to lose. They're the better team. They are better than Michigan State in every way. They just blew that game at the end, but they were up 16 on them, and we could get into that whole story. But next, they got Michigan State. They lost to Purdue by 11, and Purdue, again, plays spoiler like they always do. They're finally in the polls this week, and we'll get to them later. And then we have OU at 8. They didn't move, they didn't play, so that makes sense, I guess. And then we have Notre Dame at 9. They won their game against Navy 34-6. And honestly, they played good in this game. They played good defense. I mean, it's Navy, so not really much I have to say. They're making Cincinnati's case a lot better by winning all the time, so I think that's why Cincinnati is at 5 and not like at 8 where Oklahoma is. And then we have Oklahoma State. They won their game 24-3, so they moved up 1. Now they're at the 10th spot. And again, I'm going to reiterate the reason that I think that they have Michigan above Michigan State is because Michigan is the better team. They're better than Michigan State, so they honored that over the head-to-head. And obviously they think both those teams are better than Oklahoma right now, even though I would not pick Michigan State to beat Oklahoma. That's what it is. And then they have Notre Dame. Notre Dame's obviously, they're a decent team. They're not really good. They're kind of average, but they've been winning their games. And Oklahoma State, best defense in the Big 12. I've said that before. But let's get into the 11 to 15. At number 11, they have Texas A&M. They beat Auburn in their game 20-3. Auburn looked awful on offense. They didn't look good on defense either. And then they got Wake Forest sitting pretty at 12. Now they only moved them back 3, which is kind of weird to me because I think Wake Forest should fall a little bit more because of the amount of points that they let up. It's not that they lost to North Carolina. It's just how bad their defense is. I believe that they should be a little lower than they're at. But I guarantee you it's because Baylor, BYU, and Ole Miss and all those teams have 2 losses that they're at that spot. And then next we have Baylor. Baylor 13. They only moved back 1 after losing to TCU by 2 points. Now that's not a bad ranking for them because, again, they only lost by 2 to a TCU team at home. And then after that, we have BYU. BYU had a gimme game against Idaho State, I think. So they're at 14. They got 2 losses. And then we have Ole Miss. Ole Miss, also with 2 losses, they played Liberty. They only won that game 27-14. And they basically put up the same amount of yards as Liberty. And I think what's holding Ole Miss back is their defense is just non-existent. So that's why I think the 11 to 15 teams are where they are. And next we got the 16 teams through 20. Starting with North Carolina State. North Carolina State, they won their game against Florida State 20-14. They look decent in this game. I think that's a good spot for them. And they have Auburn sitting at the 17th spot, which I would rank them a little bit lower than 17 after they only put up 3 points against Texas A&M. That's just not good. And for a 3-loss team, they should not be as high as they are. And I'm going to say this about Wisconsin too. Wisconsin's next at 18 with 3 losses. they should not be where they're at. I think Purdue should be above them because they have better wins than Wisconsin does, but Purdue wasn't ranked before this, so I understand why they put them above Purdue. And then we have Iowa. Iowa rounds out the 16-20, and they only won their game 17-12 against Northwestern. They did not look good. I don't know what's wrong with Iowa, but they need to figure something out, or they're going to lose at least another 1 to 2 games. And for last but not least, we got the 21-25. At 21, they have Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh beat Duke 54-29. They look good in this game. Pickett played a lot better than he did in the last game. And then they have San Diego State. San Diego State, they also won their game. And then UTSA, they finally got UTSA in the rankings. They still don't have Houston, which I'm a little butthurt about, but they have UTSA in here at least. They're 9-0. They're playing good football. And then they have the Utah Utes sitting at 24 and the Arkansas Razorbacks at 25. Now, I understand why they put Arkansas in there, but again, Mississippi State shouldn't have been ranked 17, which then Arkansas, when they beat Mississippi State, they shouldn't have been put into the rankings. I still think Penn State deserves to be in this top 25 over Arkansas, definitely, and over Utah as well. And especially San Diego State. They're better than all those teams, and they're just getting snubbed right now. Even after they won a game against a high-powered Maryland offense, they won that game 31-14. So I believe that they should be in here. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, I want to give you guys who I think are going to make the playoffs and what format it's going to be at. I do believe that Georgia is going to be the #1 spot. They're going to beat Alabama in the SEC championship game. Alabama's going to drop to 5. And then we're going to have Oregon at 2. I think Oregon's going to win out because they don't have any big games on their schedule other than Utah, and I think they'll win that game. And then we're going to have Ohio State at 3. And I have Ohio State winning the Big Ten. They got Purdue next week. They're in the rankings. And they have Michigan State. They're in the rankings. And then they have Michigan also in the rankings. So Ohio State will be at 3 or 2, depending on if the committee cares about the head-to-head or not over those wins. And then they have the Big Ten championship game as well. Don't know who's going to be in that game, but we'll see. And then we have Cincinnati out at #4. I think Cincinnati will actually get into the playoff and be #4 just because they're going to win out in my mind. And like I said, Ohio State's going to beat Michigan State and Michigan. And I think Oklahoma's going to lose one game. They're going to lose to Baylor, or they're going to lose to Oklahoma State, Iowa State, or the Big 12 championship game. So I'm going to have them out. They'll probably be in the 6th spot. And lastly, I want to talk about scenarios for teams that's getting into the playoff now. Let's start from the top. We're going to start with Alabama. For Alabama to make it, all they have to do is beat Georgia. They just have to win out, and they have to beat Georgia, and then they'll be #1. Georgia will probably be #3 or 4 after that game. And then for Oregon to get in, all they have to do is win out. Ohio State, same thing. All they have to do is win out. And then Cincinnati, all they have to do is win out, and they need Alabama to lose. They need Alabama to lose, and they'll be in. And then after that, for Michigan to get in, they have to win out. They have to win the Big Ten championship game. Michigan State, same deal, have to win out, win the Big Ten championship game, and Ohio State has to beat Michigan. And Oklahoma, they have to win out, and I honestly believe Cincinnati might have to lose a game. Now, I'm not sure. It depends on how the committee views it, but Cincinnati might have to lose for Oklahoma to get in, or it might be the other way around. Maybe if Cincinnati and Oklahoma both win out, Oklahoma needs to lose for Cincinnati to get in. We'll see. Notre Dame, for Notre Dame to get in, honestly, they would need everyone in front of them to lose. Oklahoma would have to lose. Cincinnati would have to lose. Alabama would have to lose. Michigan State would have to lose to Ohio State. And Michigan would have to lose to Ohio State as well. And then Ohio State has to lose the Big Ten championship game. And then they could probably put Notre Dame in there. And maybe if Oregon loses to Utah, they can get in. And other than that, I don't see a way that any other team can get in. Oklahoma State might have a chance. The only chance I see them having is if they win out by a lot. Like, they have to win every game by a lot of points. And all those teams before I told you about have to lose. So it's looking very bleak for them. But those are the only teams I think can actually make the playoff, and that's how they would get in. So with that being said, that's going to be the end of the video, guys. Let me know what I got right. Let me know what I got wrong. Let me know if you guys agree with what I had to say in my analysis, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.